don't have enough supplies, that they don't have enough basic materials such as cement, such as construction material, anything to do with building, to rebuild the Gaza Strip, which had a huge amount of damage after the war a year ago. The United Nations recently said that 3/4 of the buildings that were damaged during the war still haven't been repaired. So we've got families, we've got hundreds, thousands of people living in camps, living in tents, with no idea about when they may return to their homes. On the medical side of things, yesterday, for example, we spoke to the head of the Ministry of Health here. He was waiting for supplies from the ship, for equipment, for wheelchairs, for drugs, for all sorts of aid, for water purification devices. He says he doesn't have enough. We spoke to the Red Cross as well. They say they don't have enough ambulances. They need about twice as much. So when you take all of that into account, it certainly appears to be a humanitarian crisis.
Nicole, thanks for that update. Nicole Johnston in Gaza there. Just to remind you, the United Nations head, Ban Ki-moon, has called for a full inquiry into the Gaza killings. Perhaps some of the strongest reaction is coming from Turkey. Our correspondent Anita McNaught is there. Anita, I hear that the Turkish Prime Minister is cutting short a visit from in Latin America to come back and deal with this. What are the developments in Turkey?
Well, things are heating up here. The Prime Minister's office has, in fact, in the last few minutes, issued a warning to Israeli visitors to Turkey, advising any Israeli who was planning to come to Turkey not to come, but more ominously advising any Israeli citizens currently holidaying in Turkey not to leave their places of residence, and particularly to avoid going anywhere near any city centres like this one in Istanbul, where there might be demonstrations.
Yeah, there's clearly a lot of anger there. We were seeing earlier pictures of protesters trying to storm the Israeli consulate.
Oh, indeed. Of course, they didn't get anywhere close, but they smashed some windows on the ground floor. This is something that Turks feel very passionately about and have felt passionately about ever since the Gaza war, which for them, I think, was a turning point in Israeli public opinion. Up till that point, Israel and Turkey had, in an intriguing sort of way, given that this is a Muslim-majority nation, rubbed along rather well with Israel. They had a very constructive military alliance, and I think for many years they saw the issue of domestic terrorism as one that they had to share information about. But since the Gaza war, relations have nosedived, and it would be absolutely fair to say this is the nadir, this is the lowest point. And the statements from the Foreign Ministry today extremely strong. An unacceptable situation. They strongly condemned a gross breach of international law. This is the Turkish government speaking, and irrevocable consequences for their relationship. And of course, they've recalled their ambassador from Israel. The Turkish ambassador is on his way back, as is the chief of Turkish military staff.
Yeah, it's difficult to play down what this could mean, because we have a Turkish ship boarded by Israeli soldiers and possibly Turkish nationals. I mean, we are hearing that Turkish nationals have been killed. No official confirmation of that yet. But the diplomatic ramifications of this could be very, very severe.
They could. Look, we just had a press conference convened by the Deputy Prime Minister Bülent Arınç, and he was asked what action Turkey was intending to take. Would any government or military initiative, specifically he was asked this, be taken against Israel? And he said not at this point, but they would see what initiative should be taken as events progressed. Would there be severance of economic relations, he was asked. Not at this point, he said. But he also emphasized that while this was in no sense a government-sponsored aid flotilla, that these were civilians traveling legitimately and with the consent of the Turkish government to do this. And he complained at the veil of silence, as he called it, that the Israeli government has drawn across the events on the boarding of that flotilla this morning, saying that it has been impossible for the Turkish government to get any clarity about casualties, names, or even nationalities of those injured. So you can sense a real irritation on the part of the Turkish government, who clearly don't feel, as we now suspect that Turks do number among the dead, that they are being treated with the respect that they deserve.
And very briefly, Anita, it's not just about people on board the boats, it's about the fact that those boats were heading to Gaza, and the people of Turkey feel a great kinship with the people of Gaza. The Israeli attack on the Gaza aid flotilla. The UN's Ban Ki-moon is now calling for a full investigation, and the Turkish Prime Minister has been recalled from a trip to Latin America because the main ship that was boarded was a Turkish ship. Let's just remind you about the Gaza flotilla. The Free Gaza movement says an estimated 700 people are on board those ships. The majority are Turkish, but there's also citizens of the United States, Britain, Australia, Greece, Canada, Serbia, Malaysia, Kuwait, Sweden and Algeria. And aboard the Turkish boat that was stormed, there are 3 German parliamentarians and 2 Palestinian members of the Israeli parliament. We'll have more on this after a short break.